What's up guys, I'm BTC. Baptiste is going to be released tomorrow, so I'm going to set you up with all the info you need about the hero. The most recent version of the PTR has now been shut down, and tomorrow the patch goes live that puts Baptiste on PC and console. And if you're wondering, the patch usually hits late morning, early afternoon. Over the last couple weeks, I've made some videos going quite in-depth into the new hero. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. The main thing I want to talk about in this video is what sort of strategies and team comps you're going to likely see in the next couple days and the first couple weeks of the character, and what you should be doing to try to counter that. The first one is going to be quite common in the first couple days and weeks, and that's Baptiste with Bastion and probably Orisa. You might also see a Reinhardt instead, and in some cases also a Symmetra. When the character Baptiste was first announced, this is the team comp that you heard quite a bit of. It's supposed to be this super strong GOATS counter. Now here's the thing. That GOATS counter with Bastion, Symmetra, and Orisa really doesn't work by itself. It's kind of gimmicky, it's a cheese comp, and it's very easily defeated. It only worked for the first couple days when it was first coming out, and really it doesn't get run all that much anymore. So this new one with Baptiste isn't really going to be all that much better. The main problem is that it isn't fully a viable or a consistent team comp. It's closer to what you would call a cheese comp, meaning that it can be very effective on an unsuspecting enemy, but has some very glaring weaknesses and counters. The main idea is that using Baptiste's ultimate amplification matrix with a Bastion in Sentry mode can do a ton of damage, but it has significant weaknesses to it. The first problem is that amplification matrix only lasts for a couple seconds. It's on par with getting a nano boost every once in a while, whereas if you're looking for a more consistent damage buff over time, then just having a Mercy damage boosting the Bastion is going to be better than relying on an amplification matrix that only pops up once every minute or so. The second thing is that Bastion in Sentry mode is a very stationary character. So if the enemy is in line of sight, then Bastion can do a lot of damage, but all you have to do is move around a wall or around a corner, and then the Bastion just can't hit you. Now, this isn't a problem as Bastion can reposition himself and get a better angle, but when you add amplification matrix into the mix, then it causes more problems. It means that the Bastion and the amplification matrix are committed to that one spot. You locked it down, and if the enemy just moves out of the way, you're not going to be able to do any damage, and after the amplification matrix goes away, it essentially just gets wasted because the enemy wasn't in line of sight. The other glaring flaw with this team comp is that it's particularly weak to dive, and specifically Sombra. Bastion, Orisa, Symmetra are all shut down by a Sombra, and Baptiste is also extremely weak to Sombra. The Immortality Drone can be hacked, and the Amplification Matrix can be destroyed by EMP. So it only takes one Sombra on the enemy team to completely destroy the Baptiste, Bastion, Orisa, Symmetra combo. That one EMP will destroy Orisa's shield, Symmetra's ultimate photon barrier. It will deactivate the Immortality Drone and the turrets that Symmetra has. It will force Bastion out of Sentry mode. It will destroy the Amplification Matrix entirely. It's a one-stop shop to completely destroying that team comp. That's why it is so incredibly vulnerable and basically just a cheese comp. You know, as soon as you see that, what you should be doing is one of your team's DPS needs to immediately switch to Sombra. Maybe you do one push, you let her build some ultimate, then the next push when you have EMP, it just completely annihilates that entire team comp. And it just shuts it down and you can roll right over them. So it's gonna be good for the teams that aren't expecting it. It's good for the teams that refuse to adapt and to basically just keep kind of running into it. But if you're willing to switch, if you're willing to work around it, then you're going to be able to absolutely destroy that Bastion, Baptiste, Orisa team comp every single time. Now, if you're the one that's playing Baptiste, you need to realize that not every team comp is going to work. If you have several tanks that are close together, Reinhardt, Zarya, or Roadhog, Orisa, then Baptiste is going to be amazing. If you're running dive, you can still be somewhat effective as long as your team is staying together and attacking the same target. If you're trying to hit the D.Va and the Winston at the same time, that's going to be a lot of healing. But the team comp that you really don't want to run Baptiste in is when you have your teammates spread out all over the place. If you have a Widowmaker that's up on the side, the Genji's off doing his own thing, and then you have a Hammond just kind of swinging around somewhere else, then you're not going to be effective, as your healing is going to be very poor. You can probably only hit one teammate at a time, and that defeats the purpose of having an AoE heal. There are also certain characters that Baptiste is just not going to be very good at healing. Fast-moving characters that are typically further away. Genji, Tracer, and Pharah stand out the most. A couple of quick tips for you. If there's high ground, you need to be on it. Try to stay above both your team and the enemy as much as you possibly can. It allows you to do your job easier and makes it harder for the enemy to hit you. Second, healing is your priority. You can do damage, but you're not a DPS. Always heal. When using the Immortality drone, don't wait too long. There's a travel time and a setup for the drone. It's not instant, so you gotta give yourself a little bit of a buffer when you try to use it. If you wait until your teammates are at 10 hit points, it's not gonna work. Next, the amplification matrix charges really fast, so just use it often. Don't try to save it for any massive, huge plays. If you get it, if there's a good team fight going on, then just use it. You'll probably get another one really fast. Next up, with the amplification matrix, you don't need to place it right in front of you. Position it so that your teammates can get a benefit from it as well. Remember, anything that is a hit scan or a projectile will be amplified as it goes through. Again, in my Mythbuster video, which I'm going to talk about in a second, you can get all of those interactions. Alright, so I want to quickly tell you about some of those other videos that I've made about Baptiste, because they're going to give you everything you could possibly need to know about the character. The first is a complete guide to all of Baptiste's abilities and attacks. This video will give you all of the stats for everything, plus that video also has some extra tips and tricks thrown into it as well. That's your first starting point. The next video you're going to want to check out is the Mythbuster and interactions. If you're wondering how the Immortality drone will interact with the D.Va Defense Matrix or Symmetra's Teleporter, then this video will tell you everything and goes over all of those interactions. The third video that you should check out is Baptiste versus every hero. This will go over every matchup in the game between Baptiste and the other heroes. It will give you a good idea of who Baptiste is going to be strong against and who will be strong against him, so you know when he's going to be effective and when you might need to switch characters. Those 3 videos will have you fully prepared for the new character. Keep in mind, Baptiste will not be available for competitive mode until 2 weeks after he gets released. So check out those videos, practice some in the quick play, and then by the time it hits competitive, you'll be all set. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.